morning, Eddie. Could we just have an update on Lewis Hall, please, who received treatment at Burnley? Is he okay, and do you expect him to be available for Crystal Palace?
Yeah, he should be okay. We'll have a closer look at him today, but I don't see it being a big problem.
You would normally expect this time of year to be perhaps the busiest, given the number of games you normally have over the festive period, but you've actually had some fairly decent time off between matches or days without playing, which is, I guess, unlike what you'd had in the months previously. How have you worked that, and do you feel that's been a good thing, having 4 days and 5 days between games?
Yeah, as you say, slightly different. Rare for us this season that we've had the 4 to 5 day lead into games. Positive for us because we're nursing players back from injury, so the more days we get, the more chance we get to get some important players back. I expect us to be in good physical condition for the games to come, but certainly there's going to be no rest during January. This is going to be a season-defining month for us with very minimal rest between games.
9 matches in January, but given that you've been away twice between Christmas and New Year, do you see it as a good thing that your next 4 and 6 of the next 7 are at home? Because apart from anything else, you're not having to travel away as much as you have been and then as you will be at the end of the month and then into February.
Yeah, I think any home game for us is a positive. We love playing at home. Goes without saying, we've been really good at home for a long time, so we prefer to play there other than anywhere else. I think the travelling, especially during a hectic game schedule, the more you can minimise that, then that's beneficial for us. But as I say, January will be a season-defining month for us. And you look at the month of our whole, I think some great games for us, some really mouth-watering occasions. But we've got some tough challenges ahead, and certainly the start to the month needs to be a fruitful one for us.
Thank you. Eddie, you say they're a season-defining month, even going into February. When you look at the schedule, I think it's 12 in the next 37 days. I'm guessing there won't be a lot of time to train in that time. How do you go about managing that on a day-to-day basis?
Well, there hasn't been a lot of time to train all season for us, really. I mean, the training days that we've had where we've had sort of a full squad to work from, like 1 or 2 training sessions, it's not been big exposure for the players in that sense. And we've got used to that rhythm. I think you get used to whatever you end up doing, and we've been training with smaller groups. We've been trying to cram as much as we can into some of the players that aren't playing. So I don't see it being a huge issue for us. I think my preference is always to try and train and prepare a number of days into games, but we'll make the best of the situation.
You've been obviously light at the back over the festive period with a number of defenders out. Is there any hope over the next couple of games of having the likes of Livramento, Trippier, Kraft or Botman back?
Kraft, no, he's further back. The others, yes.
Are you able to say when? Is it a potential for this weekend, or does that come too soon? Yeah,
we've got a couple of training days, but yeah, Tino and Kieran have worked really well. They've had proper recovery periods, so they're both close.
That'll be a real boost for you, I guess, in that position, given how light you've been.
Huge. I mean, Louis Miley, I've said time and again how well he's done in a position that he's not played before. Again, against Burnley, I thought he was magnificent for us. But we'd love to get our fullbacks back fit and available, and boost the squad really in terms of numbers. We've been very thin on the ground for defenders, so that would be a big area.
Thanks, Keith. Andy?
Morning, Eddie. You call it a season-defining month ahead in January. How strong a foundation do you feel Newcastle have leading into that month, looking at all of the competitions? 4 points off the top 5 in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup, going well in the Champions League as well.
Yeah, we're in there, fighting and scrapping for every point that we can in the Premier League. It's been a difficult season so far. It's not been plain sailing for us, but the points gap is minimal. If we can put a run together, it's a big if. It's that magic word, consistency, being able to back up results, which has probably been our failing this season. So that's what we're looking to do, and if we can, things can change quickly and the perspective can be very different. We haven't been able to do it yet, but this is the moment, and we're running out of opportunities, because beyond this I don't think we'll get another chance. So I think our focus is there. and the performance levels have been pretty good for a while. But yeah, as you say, and I said, this is a season-defining month for us, and we're going to be challenged off various fronts. So exciting times ahead, I think.
You talk about Lewis Hall there. How important is it to keep him fit now? Because he has had his injury problems in the past, but every time recently he's appeared on the pitch, he looks like he's producing excellent performance after excellent performance.
Yeah, he's an important player for us. Every defender we have fit and available at the moment is an important player because we only have 4, and I'm including Louis Miley in that 4. I'm talking established Premier League players. So Lewis is, it's technically excellent. He's an attacking front foot defender. I think he's only going to get better the more games that he plays, fitness-wise, and getting his very best form back. But he's a real talent, and we need to try and keep him on the pitch.
Just finally, football's obviously a sport played in the spotlight a lot of the time. Just reflecting back on 2025, what moment kind of sticks out in your mind that perhaps hasn't been out there in the spotlight here at Newcastle United?
Regarding us? Yeah. You've laid that one on me, Andy. I've got no idea. There's so many moments and there's so many things that happen in a year of football. Obviously, the obvious ones that everyone knows about stick in my mind and will always be there in memories of the cup final and everything around the parade, and those few days were unbelievable. And that sort of dominates my thoughts when you ask me a question like that. So as soon as you say that that's not in the spotlight, it's thrown me. So I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
No worries, I'll ask you again next week.
Yeah, I'll text you later.
Anisha?
Morning, Eddie. Can you just talk to us a bit about Palace and the challenge that they'll pose for you? They're in a more difficult moment in the Premier League, certainly with their results, but a manager that's incredibly highly regarded. How difficult do you think this game will be?
Yeah, it'll be a difficult game. Their away form's very good defensive team, solid, tough to score against, and they've got good attackers the other way as well. I think it goes without saying how good a job I think Oliver's done. Watched them closely in the preparation for this game, and yes, they've lost a few key players for different reasons, whether it be injury or African Cup of Nations, but they're still a very good team, and a team that we can't underestimate, and we won't underestimate. We don't underestimate any opponent, and a game that we can do well in if we're at our best levels, and we're boosted by the fact we're back at home after it feels like a long time away. But it's a game that we need to prepare well for.
And all these home games in what you say is a season-defining month, it's a gift really that that you've got them. Is it a case that you have to take advantage, and get this season, get that consistency that you want?
Yeah, we look at playing at home as a privilege. There's a great environment. The supporters always create that environment for the players to relax and to express themselves in a really positive way. I think if we can do that and we can get a really good feeling about our objectives and what we're looking to do, then hopefully we'll perform. And I think we've been pretty consistent in terms of our performance levels, as I've said in recent weeks. I've been happy. We've still got a lot of growth and a lot of improvement there, I think, that we can deliver. And especially if we can get some players back, as we spoke about earlier, then I think the squad will be in a much better position.
Thank you.
Thank you. Britons, we've got a Damien then to Dominic.
Morning, Eddie. We seem to spend much of the last 4 years talking about PSR. As we go into a new transfer window, do you have the ability to make a marquee signing if you choose to?
Yeah, we have spent a lot of time talking about PSR. It's nice actually to have gone a few weeks without talking about PSR, but I suppose we're back at that time of year again. Marquee signing, I don't know quite what that means. I suppose you're talking big financial outlay. I don't think that's the desire in this month for various reasons, because I don't think it's a great month necessarily to make that kind of signing. Any signing that we do make in this window will restrict our ability to do business in the summer. So I think we've got to be really careful that we make the right decisions for the here and now and for the future. We're still on that position where PSR will influence every decision that we make. So that's why we have to be really smart. So I don't think that's necessarily the wish in this month. But I think our injury situation to a degree will impact what we do and don't do.
Dominic?
Morning, Eddie. Previously, you spoke quite openly about Willock and how close he came to leaving the club in the summer. The interest in him is well documented. Do you expect him to leave the club this month?
No, there's no expectation of me thinking Will leave. I think the only way that we would consider that would be for his development and growth, in terms of, benefiting his career to play, but always with a view to him coming back to us. So he's injured at the moment. I think the main priority for Will is just to focus on getting fit. I don't think he's close, but I think he's improving. So hopefully we'll see him towards the end of the month. It'd be big for us to get him back fit, and it'd be big for him because I know he's been hugely frustrated by this injury when he had a lot of opportunities to play. And prior to his injury, I thought he was in a really good place and doing well. So as with every player, we'll make a decision when we need to.
Okay, we'll go to Lee, Craig and Luke, please.
Morning, Eddie. Obviously, one of our jobs is to ask what the fans are talking about, and one of the recurring themes has been about what they perceive as a lack of a plan B. I think it's referring to substitutions. What would you say to any fan who said there's no plan B at the minute, especially that hour at Burnley where they were just, it was an onslaught at Turf Moor?
An onslaught on?
At Turf Moor.
Well, against us?
When it was 2-0, after that, Burnley were just on top for nearly an hour.
Have you seen the stats of the game?
Well, I'm just saying what I saw with my own eyes.
Yeah, but you must have been watching a different game then. So there was no onslaught. Yes, we had moments, of course. We had moments the other way. I mean, I would never describe it as that. And I always try to be, if it was an onslaught, I'd give you my opinion and say, yeah, I thought it was. But a plan B, that's always a difficult one, because if you have too many plan Bs, that means your plan A is flawed, and your players are then thinking of what's next rather than trying to deliver the plan A to the best of their ability. So we have loads of different ways of playing, but within the structure and the principles of what we believe in. So I see countless managers ask the same questions on plan Bs, and as I say, you have to be careful. So we have a very strong plan for every situation. We just need to deliver it better. That's sort of where I am, and the focus is towards the players on trying to improve our performances all the time.
Craig?
Can I just ask quickly, Eddie, before I ask a question, two names that weren't mentioned there, Elanga and Botman, are they available or where are they at?
They're close, Craig, yeah. They're both very close. Sven's been training with the group, which has been great. So envisage that he will be in and around this game. Anthony hasn't trained with us yet, but is very close to doing so.
And just on transfers as well, I know Damien touched on it there, but what do you want to do if you strip away everything else? What would you like to do? What do you think you and your team squad need this month?
I think, without evading the question, it's about where our squad is at in terms of injuries. So if everyone's fit and available, I think we've got a really well-balanced squad. And I think it'll be difficult then in January to improve that squad. If we don't, and we lose players, especially defensively, with the game schedule they have in January, then that leaves a totally different opinion. So I think it's based on that.
Luke?
Just picking up what Lee said there, do you think you talk about a lack of consistency being a problem this season. Are you worried about your ability to control games, particularly away from home, and does that stem from particularly from problems in midfield?
Yeah, I don't think we've had the control that we would have liked in some games. And sometimes we've self-inflicted some problems on ourselves. And going back to Burnley, there was a period of, say, 10, 15 minutes where we were turning the ball over a little bit too much, and that gave them confidence and belief to come back into the game when it looked like we were going to take full control. And that's frustrating from our perspective, having got a 2-goal lead after 10 minutes. I expected us to go on and really consolidate in that moment. So, yeah, I think that there's areas there to look at and to focus on, and we have our themes and areas that we're focusing on and trying to implement at the moment that will make us stronger and better. But I've watched loads of games of Burnley's this year, and they've been very competitive at home. They've been in almost every game. So while we didn't win as strongly as I maybe wanted us to, we did win, and it was a good performance.
Sorry, just going to add, well, sorry, Lee, this is already breaking rules. And I saw a stat yesterday which surprised me a little, but apparently in last year, 2025, you won 29 games, which is the most in a calendar year since 1995. That would suggest that actually things aren't nearly as bad as sometimes the outside noise can make out.
It's nice to hear a positive stat, Luke, so thank you for that. I had no idea that was the case. So certainly 2025 overall, I think, was a really good year for us. It didn't end with us in our best moment, and obviously the mood and the feeling is always attached to that, and I understand that, but sometimes to look back is a good thing.
Thanks, Luke. Chris and then Martin.
Sorry, Eddie, I'm going to follow up with a negative stat, so I apologise.
Cheers, Chris.
But it's 12 Premier League games without a clean sheet, and I think it's 12 games in all competitions. Obviously, you started so strongly defensively with a lot of clean sheets early in the season. You've had defensive injuries. How frustrating has that been, and how much do you think that is holding you back, the fact that you're struggling to keep clean sheets?
Yeah, strange one, because I'm going to come back with another stat. Our stats are XG. I know everyone can have different opinions on XG. We're the second best team in the Premier League for defensive performance, and that makes that stat that you give me frustrating, because we shouldn't have conceded some of the goals that we have. I think our defensive record in terms of goals conceded should be better. Yeah, it's a surprising return, that, because I think there's been games where I've walked off and gone, well, we should have kept a clean sheet. There's no way we should have conceded today, but concentration levels, details, individual moments, we've got to be better at. We pride ourselves on being organised and trying to be really tough to score against, but we've got to improve that return, and hopefully in the new year we can.
Okay, Martin.
Hi, Eddie. 15 games in 50 days, 12 and 37. Are we at a breaking point with these amounts and what's been asked of players at the minute?
Yeah, that's a deeper conversation. I don't know. The players want to play. The only thing for me is whenever the players enter the pitch, I want them to be able to physically produce their very best. Sometimes with the really quick turnarounds, I think our turnaround that we had leading into Chelsea was that was far too tight, I thought, for the players to give. Although we did actually give a really good physical performance, especially for the first half in that game. But that was a big ask. So I think that's the big thing for me. I think the number of games isn't going to go away, but just the turnaround times, I think, have got to be thought about.
Okay. Jordan?
Just linking back to Luke's question about the midfield, would you agree that Sandro Tonali hasn't been at his best in recent months, given the standard he had set over the last 12 months?
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. I think the standards that he set last season in particular, I thought he was absolutely magnificent. And him returning to the team gave us almost like a new signing, a new energy boost in there. He built really good relationships with the players around him, and I think he was really, really effective in lots of different dimensions of the game. I think this season, for whatever reason, I don't think he's quite hit those levels that he did the season before. We're working with him to get him back to those levels. And I think we've seen games where he's performed really well. And even within games, there's been moments and periods of the game where he's been absolutely at his best. But it's that consistency level for him, as it is for the team, that will be the thing we're focused on.
Okay, Sean, to finish this section, please.
Morning, Eddie. Obviously, Nick Pope came back in against Burnley, and I thought he made a real difference in the second half. A few big saves when it was, pressure was building. You said Kieran Trippier's close to coming back, and what's a season-defining month, as you just said before. How important is their leadership going to be in what's such a grueling January across all four competitions and some huge games?
Yeah, I think the leadership aspect is one that probably gets ignored in terms of when those players are missing, what we miss. So when you look at Dan Burn, Sven, Kieran, I'm going to miss someone out here, I know I am. But regardless of sort of the individual names, there's a lot of experience that's been absent. And I think you feel that internally, because the group's been a bit quieter, it's a bit more youthful. And I think you've seen sort of the impact in that in some of the games when we've lost control or we've lost a late goal, or sometimes you put it down, so if it's a set play, down to organisation, leadership, voice, all those things play a big part. So the players coming back into the team, their experience and everything that they bring will give us a massive lift. So we're excited to get those players back.